If medical providers, if partners in committed relationships, if parents and children, if bishops can sit in counsel and listen to understand the lived experience of the other person, and as Brene Brown says, believe that person. Like, a lot of the human habit is, it cannot be that bad. They're making this up. It's all in their head. Like, that's the natural human thing, is it cannot be that bad. But if I'm able to postpone my judgment, as Lessa so beautifully said, your judgment of this needs to just be off the table. Number one, I'm sitting to understand, to hear the problem, to do these things, and to believe the person who is telling me this. It is not my job. I'm not the interrogator. This is not a prosecution system where I'm trying to justify and whatnot. This is Ian, you are coming to me, you are in pain. I think it would have been more appropriate for the doctor to say something along the lines of, I can't imagine how invasive that pain must be, or how much stress that places on you and your family. Have you followed the doctor's recommendations? Are you following the doctor's recommendations?
Right.
Are you living your life in the best way you know how? Do you feel that this coffee drinking is a sin? You don't feel like it's a problem. You feel like you are managing things in the best way you can. God trusts you to figure it out for you. Here's your temple recommend.
Well, and that's the problem that has been created by making it a rule. You basically, when you've weaponized this tool, you played Bishop Roulette. And one time... Roulette, whatever.
There's a lot of echo all of a sudden. I'm not sure where the echo's coming from in our microphones.
You played the Bishop Roulette, and the one time you won. You got a bishop that was able to understand, was able to allow you, why that was even necessary, allow you to follow doctor's recommendations and find something that worked for you. And then the second time, you played Bishop Roulette and you got killed, right?
The bullet was in the chamber that time.
Because he couldn't take the time to say, okay, help me understand, Ian. It sounds like you've done a lot of things to try and manage these migraines. Would you say that you've done everything that you can think of and that doctors have provided for you? And you can say, yeah, I feel like I have. And the only thing that I've found that works is coffee. And it works well. Like, I'm not willing to give it up because my life is better from that medicine.
Right.
Yeah, I was able to reduce the Tylenol intake to one, maybe two a week. I was able to reduce the Motrin down to 120 millimeter a day. It works.
In a lot of ways, it would be like telling someone your ADHD kid cannot have Ritalin because you make it from cocaine. In a lot of ways, it's a similar situation. Like, cocaine is against the word of wisdom. You can't have a drug that comes from cocaine.
Right. It's methylphenidate.
Right.
It's methylphenidate. Yeah.
Right. But it's made from cocaine. My local anesthetics, what I use to numb people, what I use to give an epidural so that you don't feel pain during delivery, it comes from cocaine. And not directly, but that's how we discovered local anesthetics and how we built them. So the one that we typically use doesn't come directly from cocaine, but the whole process came from studying and learning how cocaine worked. So you're taking something that you have discovered that works very well to put you in a position where you can be a good man, where you can be happy with your performance as a husband, as a father, and you want to take that away because of what seems very arbitrary in someone's interpretation of a rule.
Right. I've got two things here. Number one, Mason, I'm going to challenge you on one word that you used.
No, I won't take it.
Yes,
no
you
challenges.
Will. You're on my show. Yes, you will.
See? We see where the authority lies now, don't we, Ian?
Oh, I wear the pants in this show because dresses are so uncomfortable.
Oh, just say what your thing is. Come on, out with it.
Challenge the idea of drinking coffee makes Ian a good man. I'm going to challenge that.
No, that's not what I said.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. You are not allowed to interrupt me. I am allowed to interrupt you. This is not a two-way street.
Watch this then.
Love it. So anyway, but number one is when we say it makes you a good person or a better person, I don't like that because we fall into that polarized thinking, that black and white thinking. Rather, drinking coffee managed an issue that helped you live up to be the person you wanted to be.
That's what I thought I said. And so if that's not how I said it, I appreciate the clarification.
Right. Number two, yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Mates. When I challenge you, normally it's just the clarification for the listener.
Words matter. Words matter.
Yes, they do. And please call me out when I misuse them, unless it's
sure.
the F-bomb.
I'm not that brave.
I'm allowed. Brat. All right. Number two, I want to say, Ian, you're not alone. And I've talked on the show previously about chronic constipation. So after I gave, number one, constipation runs in my family. But after I gave birth to my oldest biological son, Hayden, I started to struggle with constipation to the point of fissures, bleeding with poo. I was gaining weight because of the bowel load, not fat. Like as soon as you give me an enema or I drink some Mag Sit, I could lose, in the upwards of 5 to 8 pounds, which is not healthy. It is not supposed to be that way. I'm the reason that, society started to get, people who struggled like me. That's the reason why cleaning out your colon became so popular, because I was full of shit. Maybe literally and figuratively.
Still is sometimes.
Hey, be nice. And I remember sitting with, I don't remember if it was my OBGYN or if it was the first GI specialist that I saw. And Mason, I'm going to ask you really quick to step away from your mic and go tell our kids to stop moving around, like start a new movie, because they're being pains. So Mason is stepping away from the mic because I can hear my kids doing things they're not supposed to be doing right now in the waiting room here at the recording studio. Squirrel. So anyway, but I went to a GI specialist or a surgeon or somebody and got my first rectal exam, and they were like, look, you're really young, but you are struggling with extreme constipation. And Ian, like you, I'm a super lightweight. So the medications that they prescribed took me so far at the lowest doses. Now I've got chronic diarrhea and I'm dehydrated, and there was no way to, managing that. And then they were like, increase your fiber. And I'm like, I'm eating all the fiber. And they're like, well, your motility's a little sluggish. Well, let's give you something for motility. And suddenly I'm too mobile. Like, there was not this balance. Say that again.
I used to call that the pharmacy shuffle.
Yes.
You go to a doctor, your doctor sends you to a specialist. Specialist gives you a prescription. You go to the pharmacy. Things work okay. They don't work okay. You go back to the doctor. You go to the specialist. You go to the pharmacy shuffle.
Right. After about 6 months of the pharmacy shuffle, and you got to add the toilet in there, because I would either I would never go to the toilet, or I wouldn't leave the toilet. I was worshiping it. I was sitting upon my porcelain throne, screaming out orders at the kids, trying to nurse a newborn. Like, it was very stressful for me. Like, it literally, constipation was changing my ability to function within my home. And after 6 months, the doctor was like, I honestly feel like if you drink just a little bit of coffee, like, it's not going to be as strong as these prescription medicines, but it will give you some better motility going on. And if you're eating that fiber and drinking that water, I think that's going to really solve things for you. And I literally, in my Mormon world, my TBM world, that's against the word of wisdom. The Lord will bless me and fix this if I don't do that. Hayden is 16 years old. From that time, I've now had 4 colonoscopies, with my last one being 5 days ago. Yeah, Monday of this week that we are recording, I had a colonoscopy. My first 3 colonoscopies came back with hemorrhoids, fissures, polyps, low motility, problems. I started drinking coffee 18 months ago. It tastes like shit. Like, I did not like it. I was putting a lot of sugar in it. I'm now way down to almost black coffee. But y'all, I'm here to say that coffee is absolutely an acquired taste for most people. And that's fine. But I have found that my daily 9 ounces a day that I sip on over the course of an hour in the morning has changed my toilet habits. And on this last colonoscopy, y'all, there were 0 fissures, 0 polyps, 0 hemorrhoids, beautiful motility. Everything looks healthy. And for the first time in my life, I will be 42 at the end of this month, the end of March. I'll be 42. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
You're just
Right. I'm a baby still. I should not be having these colon issues at 42. And at 42 years old, I got the all clear. I don't need to see you back for another colonoscopy for 10 years. And that's my 4th one, I think. And it's clean. For me personally, when I look at my history, coffee healed my colon, literally. Because I now have regular bowel movements. My poopies look like snakes in the potty, just like they're supposed to. And I am no longer in extreme abdominal pain, discomfort, lots of bloat, like all of those GI issues, all those irritable bowel GI issues have gone away. Now, having said that, on the health thing, I want to say for a lot of people, coffee causes GI issues.
Yeah.
So really what we're looking at again is how do we empower our listeners, each individual person, to be able to say coffee works for me or coffee doesn't work for me. You know, I've got one kid with ADHD that he's completely off Vyvanse and he sips on coffee throughout the day until 3 o'clock. And he is able to stay off of, I think he was on 50 milligrams of Vyvanse at its highest. And he had maxed out Concerta at one point. So this is my 18-year-old who really, really struggled, had to take ADHD meds in order to function. Now he just sips on coffee and his ADHD problems are solved. I have a older teenage daughter who wanted to try coffee for her ADHD because that runs in my family. You know, I have it, my kids have it. And she had the jitters and like it made her nervous and anxious. So coffee doesn't work for her.
Yeah.
That's okay. This is about making those individual decisions.
Now
So
that
you're
you
not
know,
alone.
now that you know that Sarah's bought stock in the coffee companies.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point, right? The point is that if you completely limit someone to a substance, you may find that you've made their lives worse because they don't have what they need to get better. And it's not like you didn't try other things, as you explained. You tried lots of other things, the things that would normally work for most people, and then you found something that worked. And so you need to be able to have the ability to use that.
Right. And this brings us back to what Ian said earlier of drinking coffee was the invention of sin. My medicine, Ian's medicine, Briggs' medicine, people all over the world's medicine is suddenly sinful. But substances that we have these long histories of, they will cause over time nasty side effects, are not sinful. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
No. And yeah, and one of the things that really upset me about that whole meeting is that I'm sitting across the table from this person, and I get it. He's a doctor also. He's doctor of psychology. You probably can figure out who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about now. From my perspective, not a good doctor of psychology. Did not practice very ethically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's sitting across the table from me, and the fact that I was sitting there, I was a first sergeant in the United States Army. There's only one rank higher for an enlisted personnel in the Army. I have a background clearance, a secret clearance, actually top secret with secret read-ons that took me 3 days to go to Washington and two lie detector tests to actually be read off those when I left the Army. So I'd also had managed to raise a family of 4 and keep a wife loving me, if I could do that, or manage to
She
earn
is an
that
angel.
for 25 years at that point, so I'm a pretty good person. And for him to absolutely show the lack of respect to that was astonishing to me.
Yeah.
I was like, who the fuck do you think you're talking
Right.
to?
He's insulting your
And
intelligence. Like you're not smart enough to
Yep.
know what's best for you.
Yeah. And I said, you might outrank me, sir, in our civilian counterpart, but if you place me against you in where we have access and what we actually know, I've got you beat 6 ways of Sunday. I'm scary that way.
Right.
And that's when you're a counterintelligence special agent, you're investigating those with the highest clearance. So you have higher than their clearance. So, and it was so offensive. And I was like, and after talking to many men that are in the church, and unfortunately most of them are not in the church anymore, they ran into the same thing, the complete lack of respect from somebody that got labeled a bishop.
Right.
Or somebody that got labeled
I am
president.
here to say Ian is a very scary guy, y'all. Don't piss him off. Mason.
Well, and you've brought to light one of the problems with religion in general is that the spiritual power turns into physical power, or spiritual authority turns into physical power. In this case, like the bishop had the ability to say, look, I understand that this is the choice that you've made, and I can respect that. I don't believe that makes you temple worthy. And that's kind of where I stand on that, but he doesn't have to demean you with that. Like that, maybe that wouldn't have been the right answer, but it's better than demeaning the person that's there. But I just want to read something. So one more scripture now. Now we're in Doctrine and Covenants section 89, which is the revelation on the word wisdom. Verse 2 says, to be sent greeting, not by commandment or constraint, but by revelation and the word of wisdom, showing forth the order and will of God and the temporal salvation of all saints in the last days. But I think it's important to point out, it says in the very the second verse, not by commandment or constraint. In other words, God is saying, this is not about controlling you. This is my will in your temporal salvation. If you can avoid these things and do these things, I think you're going to be better off. But we've taken it and we've weaponized it, and now it is a way to control behavior or get rid of the people who won't fall in line. And that is not what it was intended for. I don't feel like that's the message from Jesus. It certainly is the message from a lot of religion and religious leaders.
Right. And I want to reframe a little bit, Mason, of what you said. I agree with what you've said, but I want to reframe it again in the religion has taken this to control behavior so that they have power over you as a person.
Yes.
So we've got about 5-10 minutes left of our show today. So I want to make sure that everybody has, is there anything else that Mason or Ian that you want to say in these minutes before I kind of wrap up with answering that question to our listeners of what next? What do I do now? So go ahead.
I think I've said my piece. Anything that you feel like you need to say, Ian?
I want to kind of tell everyone where I'm coming from on this. I'm still a member, and I don't have a problem with being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, okay? What I have run into on numerous occasions is people that have taken what is scriptures, what is doctrine, and they've absolutely bastardized it. And I hate to label people, but it's I call it Salt Lakeism.
Yes.
And I really implore people that listen to this is that do your research, look things up, make a decision for yourself. Your relationship with Jesus Christ is your relationship with Jesus Christ, and that's the end of it, right there. everything else, if somebody tells you something, if somebody says something, if so-and-so said something about this or whatever, you're not allowed to walk across the grass on certain days because, that's going to affect your temple
Right.
recommend. Be willing to call bullshit.
Yes.
It's okay if you're offensive at times, because there's people that honestly just need to be said to, hey, no, that's not right. That's not what Jesus taught.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whoever came after him. It's, what did Jesus teach us? And we need to concentrate on that.
I love
Very
that,
nice.
Ian, because what you're basically saying is utilize your critical thinking skills and have an
Absolutely.
opinion, because these rules do not work for everybody. Very rarely does a rule or anything really serve every person that the rule is meant to apply. We need to be able to embrace thinking for ourselves. And I love that you're encouraging people to do research, because we've been taught since we were itty bitty that doing research outside of what the church tells us is true is, again, invented sin. It's sinful, it's anti. And I think for those of us that have looked at that, we're like, hey, this gives us more context. It gives us more understanding of things, but it allows us to go, that doesn't make sense. Let's course correct. The only thing that the truth of the Mormon Church's history threatens is the Mormon Church. It does not threaten your relationship with the Savior Jesus Christ if you want to have one. And I know lots of people in their faith transition out of the church, they really struggle with having a relationship with a higher power in any capacity, because the betrayal trauma is so strong, they don't know how to do that anymore. The truth is supposed to set you free. But
Absolutely.
when you are a victim of this cult-like mentality, this behavior control, your ability to connect in meaningful ways spiritually becomes fractured and broken, and it takes a lot of time for that to heal. So in closing, I would say to that listener that says, okay, so Sarah, this is all great, now what? I'm going to encourage you to identify where your behavior is being controlled in an undue influence, unhealthy power dynamic, but also where you as the individual are trying to, in an unhealthy way, control other people. Because I guarantee we all have that to some extent, whether it's moments or if it's a consistent thing. We need to be able to own and have that accountability of, I'm exercising unrighteous dominion over somebody else. I am practicing undue influence over somebody else. It's educate yourself and learn about these patterns. Ian, one of the things that I love about you, and one of the things that really benefits our relationship, is you are very comfortable, and you have on multiple occasions called me out in a very public way, mostly on social media platforms, to say, Sarah, that's bullshit, I disagree, and this is why. And you and I are able to exchange in dialogue that is not threatening. And that's one of the greatest things about our relationship is we are allowed to critically think and own our own opinions and hold the things that are valuable to us, and still be bonded over poopy Legos or whatever the case may be. But we have been friends, right? We've been friends forever. And you and I have never sat in each other's homes. We've never had a conversation where we've been like, yeah, I agree with you 100% on everything you've just said. We disagree. We think critically, and we say, hey, this works for me. That works for you. I love you, and I feel as though that is free of judgment from you and Jill and the kids. And as your kids are growing up and becoming adults, our relationship with them. It's like our family is just, it's getting deeper. And I want to encourage our listeners to do this. If you find yourself in a relationship where it's all or nothing, it's always black and white. It's you have to agree with me. We have to be on the same page. You're not allowed to criticize something that I hold valuable. There's a problem. There is a mind control. There is a behavioral control.
Yeah.
There is undue influence. It's culty. And the beauty of relationships, which we've been able to experience, is we can be different. We can disagree. We can even disagree in public with passion and love the fuck out of each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's a level of respect for each other's intellect and background that we both understand, and also our the family's relationships helps hugely. And I tell this to people. I said, if you come across a personality and you disagree with them, and you're not allowed to disagree with them, get away from that person.
Yes, or organization or relationship, not just get away from the person, insert get away from it.
Yeah, get away from them, because you clearly, they don't respect you. You're not an automaton. You're not here to just do what they want you to do. It's funny. People say, well, you spent 22 years in the military. You must just be like a robot. And I said, absolutely not. I was a non-commissioned officer. You never told me what to fucking do. Right. You told me that you wanted to get something done, and I got it fucking done. And that's how we worked. We don't sit there. You don't tell me how to do something. You just expect the expectation of having it get done. I will break every damn rule that you put in front of me to get it done.
Right.
That's my mentality. That's how I come across to people. That's how I am. That's who I am.
But I think too that if you then take that and apply that to religion, talked about having a relationship with Jesus Christ. If you then take that mentality, I want a relationship with Jesus Christ as my Savior, and I will break every rule that you put in front of me to accomplish that. Sometimes we think that all these rules exist so that you can have a relationship with Jesus, and for some people, that's what works. But other people, again, it turns you into a slothful servant, right? If I have to tell you everything that you're supposed to do, you're not a very good servant to me, because then I have to tell you everything that you do. I want a non-commissioned officer. I don't want a private, right? I want somebody who can think for himself and can decide what is the most important thing here. Right. How do I get that? Well, this rule here is in the way. Okay, you've already told me that is the most important thing. Get the rule out of the way.
Well, and I want to just add here, I love this, because what we're doing is we are giving people the power to have their own thoughts. Mason, you say people who have to be commanded in all things are slothful. And I see that in the Mormon culture in the sense of, I'm going to do what the church says I'm going to do so that I can spiritually bypass thinking for myself, reasoning for myself, deciding for myself. My decision is I will obey the church, and everything else is done for me. And that's dangerous. I also want to put out there that on your spiritual journey, we want to boundary that up with doing no harm. Now, like Ian, I know you're in the military, and I know there's some secret squirrely stuff that you've done in the past where ethics are very different in the do no harm space.
Say what?
But for our listeners, I want to make sure that we are encouraging, think for yourself, make these decisions for yourself, plant your seeds and grow in relationships where there's, mutual respect. If you're struggling to respect somebody, if you're dehumanizing somebody, then you got to address that. So let's plant our seeds in environments where there's mutual respect and thrive and grow in that, with the boundary being do no harm. I think you're going to be successful. When we believe that, so I'll say in closing, when I, Sarah Westbrook, believe that I am better than somebody else and I act in a way that dehumanizes them, I become somebody that is unhealthy. And I have, in my journey out of Mormonism, I think that's one of the issues within Mason, your family towards me, is that mutual respect has never been there. Sarah is not viewed in Mason's family as a valuable participant, an educated person. I'm annoying, I'm loud, don't listen to her, I'm dehumanized. And these people that are probably very upstanding citizens and doing the best they can in the world that they have are missing out on this bond, Ian, that like our families are able to share, where we can get in and have dinner and have a discussion where we're all throwing around our ideas and then still laugh at dessert and hug each other goodbye and get in the car and drive away without any hard feelings or any contention. That's what we are striving for.